Good evening. We're doing something a little different tonight for our Wednesday night Bethel Radio Hour because Ben is out of town. And he's giving us this opportunity to do something different, which is an interview. Not just a testimony, but a pointed interview. And in talking to Ben about this, I said, I think people come into church and they assume that everyone else is a spiritual superstar. Like everybody else has it all together. They have a spotless past. They always have. They assume things like, I can't have that because of my past, or I can't grow spiritually. And they look around and they assume things, and they don't see the backstory. And nobody really wants to open up the hood of their life and let everybody look underneath. Not everybody has a spotless past. Everybody has a story. And so tonight is John Yerkey's story. So, John, you're a fireman by trade. You're a father. You're a stepfather. You're my husband.
Correct.
And most importantly, you're a Christian.
Correct.
All right. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're going to just tell us your story tonight.
I think you have been waiting for this opportunity for a long time.
And it's recorded. It's going to be recorded.
I know.
All right. You ready for this? All right.
Sure.
Let's just start from the very beginning. Where did you grow up?
Right here, St. Clair, born and raised. I lived out in Moselle, which is a couple miles behind us. I guess we moved out here when I was like 1. So we lived in St. Louis for that first year and then moved out here. And then ever since then, Moselle.
What kind of things did you do growing up?
Oh, so I was born in 86. So my memory is early 90s. So I was a 90s kid. We played outside every single day.
You're the last of the feral children. You drink from the hose.
Yep. Drank from the hose because you couldn't drink from the water inside.
You couldn't go inside.
You weren't good enough for that. Yeah. You had to drink from the hose. I don't know. We played outside every day. Bikes were a big thing. So I guess to kind of set the stage on that, what happened was my grandpa was from St. Louis, and when he was a kid, he would catch the train from St. Louis, and he would jump off in Moselle, do whatever he did on the weekends, catch the train back. My grandma, she was from New York, Bronx or Brooklyn or maybe even Queens. I don't know, one of those boroughs. And she moved to St. Louis, they met, and she started to do that same thing with him. And then they ended up building a little weekend cabin. They'd kind of rendezvous out to the country every weekend. And then my grandpa, he had bought 80, 100 acres, something like that, and he divided it up amongst himself and his 3 kids. So he had my dad, aunt, and then another son. Everybody got a chunk. So it's kind of me and my cousins running around. We'd ride bikes back and forth. We weren't that far apart. Houses were maybe 200, 300 yards apart at best. Hunting, fishing. I did all the Little League sports. Four-wheelers. We had horses. We would go on trail rides all over, everywhere in Moselle. I hate horses to this day.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would rather I won't even go there. But, that was just an outside kid.
You had a pretty decent childhood upbringing.
Yeah, I would say so. There was no fighting at home.
Did your family go to church?
No. So my immediate family, mom, dad, sister, myself, did not. My grandma and grandpa that I was speaking of, they did. They were very much, they were Catholic, and they were devout Catholics. Seems like that skipped my dad and my uncle, but my aunt, she got it, and she still is very devout Catholic Christian. So church was not something I did on Sundays. If I went to church, it was because I spent the night at my grandma and grandpa's on Saturday night, or with my cousin, who is my aunt's son. If you spent the night with either of those on Saturday nights, you were going to church Sunday morning. So I kind of figured that out at a young age. I'm pretty good at figuring things out pretty quick. And I figured out that if I did that, I would have to go to church on Sunday. So I kind of started to avoid the Saturday night, spend sleepovers, if you will.
To avoid going to church.
To avoid going to church.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So as a young adult, did you go to church at all after, you kind of reach a point when you can make decisions on your own, what you do, if you go to church, if you don't. So you weren't raised to go to church. Did you go to church at all in your early adult years?
No. There was a brief moment in time where me and another buddy of mine went to St. Clair Catholic Church, just a couple random Sundays, like whenever we had talked about it, we would maybe go, but it was never on the schedule, never a priority, never even thought about. Like church, to me, church people were different people. They weren't my people. They were just different.
What were your people, would you say?
Oh, well, my people were... So I partied a lot. So you're talking, I guess you could say, if you want to stick with the childhood for a second, in my house, it was kind of like you don't get up to go to fun, you get up to go to work. So my dad, he went to work every day, Monday through Friday. He provided for all of us. We never went hungry. We had a roof over our head, toys, hobbies, all the stuff. But church was never a thing. It just wasn't wasn't a thing. Like, it didn't kind of exist. Like, yeah, you knew church was there. Like, you drove past the church, you knew what it was, but it wasn't like us.
It wasn't for you, quote.
But you can't even really say that, because it wasn't like it was even a thing we did and then was like, we got other stuff going. It was just like not there. So you have that. And then when you get into your question of the younger years, are you talking like teens, 20s?
Yeah, kind of when you're in your young adult years. You're not maybe under your parents' supervision. You're doing life
drive
on your own. You've got a real job, or you're in college, that kind of time.
So yeah, no. I guess you could say from 15 to 25, just to keep the numbers easy. I was just partying. That's what I wanted to do. So there's a lot of overlaps here with things that I've really dove into. Like, I can talk about like hunting and how much I loved to do that, and kind of put everything aside for that. And you remember a lot of these things.
I do.
So like hunting, the firehouse, working out, partying, like all this stuff. And some of them will end while other ones pick up. Some will overlay. But the partying, gosh, I can remember, I think like the first party that I went to where there was alcohol, that was like freshman year. And there was no turning back. Like I went with the older kids, because when I was in high school, you didn't go to prom unless you were a junior or senior. So I was a freshman, and there was parties, prom, there's always parties. And freshman year, I went to the prom, one of the parties, there's parties everywhere, and there was just no turning back. I loved it.
I feel like when I met you, you were coming to the tail end of that, but working too much and hunting too much was on the upswing. Would you agree to that?
Yeah. By the time we had met, like, yeah, that had fizzled out. That fizzled out, but there was
But your addiction
still
to hunting was still...
random times where I'd, come out of retirement.
I remember those as well.
But yeah, for me, like I loved the parties. I loved the alcohol, the bars, all the stuff. I loved it all. Still do.
You let yourself.
Yeah, but just go on. I'm sure we'll get more into this.
Well, yeah, we will. So, what was your first experience with Bethel Church? And I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and so does Brother
And Ben does
Yeah,
too. Ben
yeah.
remembers this.
So, if I go back to high school, and you're talking 16 to 18, Bethel Church was like the center location for me and all my friends to meet.
All the country boys, all the Lonedale boys.
Lonedale, St. Clair, Moselle. I'd come from Moselle. Some would come from Lonedale. Some would come from town. And we would meet and we would park just in the parking lot up here on that top row. And if you go back, 20 years, there used to be 2 giant trees at the top of the parking lot. And we thought we were slick. And we would hide our trucks behind those trees, which you weren't really hiding anything. It's a wide open parking lot, but we were dumb. So we would meet here, and wherever the party was at, if the party was in St. Clair, we'd head that way. Lonedale, we'd head that way. And that was my first, Bethel Church introduction. It was just a place where we met to go get tore up.
And Ben never, and he knew, and he remembered you.
Yeah, and I didn't know he knew.
When you started coming to Bethel, he remembered you from parking your truck here.
Yeah, so.
And picking it up perhaps on Sunday mornings too early.
To get into the weeds a little more with that, one of the guys who would meet here, his family was really involved with this church. And he kind of wasn't, but his mom and dad and brother and sister were, and yeah, his vehicle would be parked up there just as well. And so Ben and Dawn would go over to this a family's house that I'm talking about. So they did know who we were, but there was never
They didn't shame you.
No, never hey, if you're parked in the parking lot, why don't you just come on in? There was never they knew what we were doing. Looking back on it now, nobody's dumb. They knew what we were doing, and there was never a judgment one.
So, what began to change? That you obviously are not the person you were. What began to change, would you say, from those early adult years to... at some point, you actually stepped through the door of Bethel, not because you had your truck parked here, but because you were actually attending a church service.
Well, the first time I walked through those doors was with you. And we came here a couple times before we got married. So you're going back to 2012, probably 2011, early 2012.
What would you say, describe your commitment to the Lord in those early days at Bethel?
There was none. But you got to understand, so I grew, what I knew as far as church was concerned was from a Catholic family, and I wasn't even involved. I was just kind of on the outside. I knew my grandma and grandpa went, and I knew my aunt and uncle went, cousin went. But for me, it was almost like no, me and my family were Catholics. I say that as I was involved, but
you were not.
I wasn't involved, but it was almost you could almost say a betrayal kind of feeling. This is a Baptist church. This is not a Catholic church. This isn't for me. And I can remember having that conversation with you, if that's all you knew, that's all I knew was the Catholic Church, and that if you ever went to a Catholic Mass, they are very different than this. Mass is very professional. You look a certain part. You don't sing like we sing. You don't meet and greet. You don't.
The pastor doesn't tell the occasional joke in the service.
There's very little joking. It's business. And for me coming in here, as soon as it hit the meet and greet and the music started, it was like, this is wild. This is something I've never. It would be the equivalent of you stepping into my world, into a bar. Like, it would throw you into such a tailspin. And we've been to bars, and I can tell you're very out of sorts. You don't belong there.
I hate it. You know that. So, in your early years attending Bethel, you wouldn't really describe yourself as having a relationship with the Lord.
Mm-mm. No, but again, you got to understand, I didn't even know about it, like genuinely, didn't even know. Now, I will say, I believed in God and I knew about heaven and hell, but as far as the Savior...
Was there anything in your walk that people would think,
no.
Oh, John Yerkey goes to church?
No.
So, when did you start to notice that something in you was changing? Because I'll just say, when we met, and even when we were early in our marriage, you were a good man. You were a very good man, but you were not a godly man. In fact, I can remember my sister saying, I don't know, like, he's a really good guy, but like, you're a little too churchy for him. That was exactly what she said. That's a story for another time. But you started to change. Do you remember when things started to shift? Can you put your finger on it, or was it more of a...
Not exactly. It was kind of a slow uphill. But I can remember... So gosh, let's think for a second. You're going back to 2012. How old would I have been? 26?
So much math. 26
or 7. So just say 30. So the first 30 years, I had never heard any, sinner's prayer, this is Jesus, like none of it.
Really any gospel-centered preaching?
No, none of it. Anything
reading from the Bible, period?
No. So that was all foreign. Like, you're talking a different language. Like, you're up here talking Spanish. I don't know what you're even saying, kind of stuff. But I would say somewhere around 30 years old, which is a little bit into our marriage. I just remember, like, Ben, he was always talking about the sinner's prayer, and he would say it, out of Romans. And every time he would say it, I would think about it, and it's like, that's new information. Like, how come no one's ever told me anything about this? Like, this is like when you learn something for the first time kind of thing. And every time he would say it, I would say it in my head, and I still do. And I always kind of wonder, like, when he's saying that, what's everybody else thinking in their head? Because if you've said, like, some people have this moment, like, it was May 15th, 1990, 2 in the afternoon, I was saved. Like, I don't have that moment. But I know it was somewhere along the way around age 30 would be when things kind of change. And then you kind of keep that going into mid-30s. I can remember having conversations with Ben over at the MC about just all kinds of stuff, like, you're feeling things you've never felt before, and I don't like to talk about feelings, but
yeah, you don't use feeling words. It's
not my language.
Nope.
But you've got to talk to someone who knows what you're talking about. So it was Ben, and I can remember telling him, like, everywhere I go, people just are looking at me. And if one more person looks at me wrong, I'm going to snap. Like, everywhere I would go, Walmart, somebody's just staring at me. The gas station, somebody's just staring at me. Go run a call at work at a factory. It's like someone just staring at me. And it's like, if one more person is caught staring at me, I'm just going to snap. I am going to snap and lose it.
So this was the conversation you had with Ben?
Yes.
Okay.
He'll remember it. Yes. And somewhere in that mix, like I was praying about it, and somewhere in that mix, the only answer I could get is just be still. Like that's the only answer I got for, I'm going to say 2 years, like a long time. Just be still. And I was just still, but all these people just kept looking at me. Everywhere I'd go, someone was looking at me, and it would make me just hot mad. Like I'd get physically hot, mad over it. I don't know why you people are looking at me.
You're tall.
Could be. I don't know. But Ben, he said some stuff, and you progress it a little bit more, you're going to get into when me and Sadie got baptized. And that was probably the point where it got real. So you're going back close to 3 years, pretty fresh. Mm-hmm. I mean, pretty fresh, close to 3 years now on that.
Well, things started to change. I just noticed several years ago, you mentioned that you like to drink, love to party, and you kind of phased out of that. But if the opportunity presented itself, you were down for the opportunity. And I noticed that an opportunity would present itself and you wouldn't drink anymore. And I remember saying, you quit drinking? And you're like, yeah, I did. And that was where I started to notice, like,
that was probably about
this was a change.
Early 30s, 33-ish.
Yeah.
And part of that was, I spoke a little bit on it last weekend on Man's Day. You kind of get the thought in your head where, like, okay, your kid is getting old enough to see what you're doing and remember it. It's like you could do some damage here. So kids definitely change you. And then I would also say somewhere in there, it just kind of, I don't know, you have no confidence. Like when you come into a church setting and you're not used to that, you have no confidence in yourself. Well, then somewhere along that way, you build up a little bit of confidence of just hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing. You remember one little thing. And as soon as you remember just one little thing, it could be anything, you kind of snowball from there, and your snowball kind of gets bigger.
So by that, you mean you're hearing scripture, you're hearing solid preaching, and your faith is growing.
Right. And it just kind of snowballs into this thing. And then if you're still sticking with going back to 3 years ago, we had some decisions to make, or I did, like serious ones, like getting baptized, moving our daughter into private school, switching careers. Because if you go back 3 years, go back 4 years, like it wasn't good. And it was because there was all this resistance of not being obedient to what I should have done. And through all that, the firehouse was priority, and it wasn't going well. But in my mind, I could fix it. I knew how to fix everything. Just leave it up to me, and probably could have fixed some things, but that's besides the point. And then Sadie, that was a big decision. But ended up leaving St. Clair, went to Union Fire. That's been a blessing. Sadie has went to Cross Point. That's been a huge blessing. Baptized. That's been a huge blessing. And it's almost like at that point, as soon as there was a step of obedience, all this weight was lifted. And that can only be one thing.
Right. I think what you're saying is, and we've talked about this individually a lot, is one step of obedience opened the door to another opportunity that led to another step of obedience. One of the things that I know you personally were convicted about is we had friends who we love, who we still love. If they called us now and they were in trouble, we'd get in the car immediately to help. But we were not influencing them, they were influencing us, and we had to make some decisions to part ways with some friendships, change some priorities,
Priorities
for sure.
is a good word, yeah.
But I think some people think that you start attending church, or even when you're saved, and all of a sudden you just become this super saint. And and some people it does. They go from, I used to sell drugs and now I'm a preacher.
Yeah.
And some people have this radical change, but for a lot of people, it's hard to pinpoint the steps. We don't all check the boxes in the same order. Some of us take a few steps forward and a few steps back, and our journey with the Lord looks more like the stock market than it does an upward climb and a nice slope. But
and you can get on YouTube and you can find testimonies of Mexican cartel used to kill people and traffic drugs, and now he's been in prison for 10 years and got out, total transformation. Like, you can find really amazing testimonies. But I would say with mine, I'd say the biggest thing is, like, my favorite Bible verse is iron sharpens iron. And if I go through all these points in my life where you've got the firehouse and, I could figure out who the guys were. Like, if I wanted to be a good firefighter, I knew who the guys were who I had to get in with. And whatever I had to do to get in with them, I did. And just to a chance to walk in their footsteps, whatever it is, sell your soul, I'll do it. Same with hunting. Same with working out. I can remember going to the gym at 20, I don't know, seeing these guys lift just a house. And the thought was, well, if they can do it, I can do it. If with everything, with hunting, well, if he can kill that deer, I can kill that deer. I just got to figure out how to do it. And I can figure out how to do it. I can just push everything aside and I can figure that out. And it's everything. So everything that I've ever done, even partying, holy cow, I knew who the partiers were at a young age, and I would just get in with them. Like, whatever it took. And then you eventually become the person that they're trying to keep up with at these parties. And then once you become the guy, your ego kind of explodes and you got to keep it up.
I think what you're describing is idols in people's life. Like,
for sure.
Hunting is my idol. Therefore, that's what consumes my thoughts, my money, my energy, my time, or you said partying, which certainly could be true for some people. It could be their job. Like, my job is all career? Consuming. Yeah. I think about it. It consumes my time and energy and my thoughts.
Yep. I've worked with guys who, and you could say I was at one point, like, I got to have my hands on everything. They won't do it right. I can do it right. I've got to go on this deployment. I've got to do all this stuff. Like, everything else is a back burner. Yeah, your idols become a front burner thing when that's the wrong stuff.
I think that's a good assessment everyone needs to do, is to think, what consumes the majority of my thoughts, my energy, my time, my money? What is that thing? And if it's not the Lord, it's your idol. And it can be a good thing. For a mom, it's very easy for that to be your family. And a family is a good thing. But if it's sitting higher on the shelf than anything else, that's your idol. So I noticed, because I'm with you all the time, that you started to get your priorities in line, where the Lord was. I'll tell you where it really changed. You exercise in our house. Like, your job requires a certain level of physical fitness, and your music even changed. Like, you were listening to Christian music when you worked out, which isn't the easiest thing to exercise to, depending.
But here's my rebuttal to that. Like, if something's truly going to get you jazzed up, why not?
Why not praise and worship music? Yeah. So at some point, your heart shifted, and was the Lord was where he needed to be. Not your job, not hunting, nothing. Not even me and the children. It was more,
because if you think about it, everybody's going to die, and if you think about who is going to be at your bedside when you're dying, it's not the guys at work. It's not the guys you were partying with. It's not the guys you hunted with. It's none of that. It's none of that. It's one, maybe 3 people at best. At best. So why not invest in them instead of your selfish hobbies, you could say?
So I have another question.
I'm sure you do.
I have several. But one is certainly, who was a person who the Lord used to influence your spiritual growth? And I'd like you to answer someone who their name and number are in your phone, and then perhaps someone maybe that has influenced you that you'll never meet them this side of heaven. A preacher on the other side of America even. Who are those people that you would say influenced your spiritual growth?
So, did you say one, or because I got a couple?
Yeah, you can a few, at least one.
Obviously, Ben Kingston, Brad Banderman, Steve Reed, Gavin Hooks. That's just a few, because if you remember, I don't really have anything pre-Bethel. So for me, it's all kind of here. Now, there's people who are in my life that are Christians, like your mom and dad, but people who dumped into me, I don't have anything pre-Bethel. So
it's the men of this church. So essentially, 2 things there. One is that if you were raised in church and you were drugged. You were drugged here several days a week.
Problems.
Yeah, I had a different drug problem. We heard the name of Jesus from childhood. Like, we heard the stories in Sunday school, and many of us take that for granted. Many times you've said to me how much you wish your parents would have taken you to school, because to Sunday school or to church in general, so you don't know what you don't know. And you've said, Tara, I don't know all this background information. I didn't get that growing up. So there is that level of, you didn't get that. If you did get that, thank your parents. That is a blessing I didn't realize until really you said it to me, that, oh my gosh.
Because there's all these little things you don't know. And like an example would be the time between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Like, I can't tell you when I learned that. So when I learned that, I genuinely had no idea there was a time gap. Like, there's little things like that you don't know. One that I just learned in Steve's class last Sunday was the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Like, Mark, I did not know that was Gavin said it's Peter's protege. I didn't know that. So, like, there's things, and I've always kind of wondered, but never connected the two fuses together. Like, I know Mark was not one of the disciples. Who is he? And then I have this phone, like, I could have Googled that at any time. I just never, I Google all kinds of stuff, like a verse, what's this verse, all kinds of stuff. But there's things you don't even think about until someone says it. And that's wild to me. Like, I didn't know he was Peter's protege. I didn't know that. So
basically what you're saying is you dug in, but you surrounded yourself with godly men. Yeah, because if you remember all these things that I've done, I've always kind of been, I'm a biggest dog in the yard type of guy. Same with the house. I wanted a specific builder to do it. I wanted a certain excavator, all big names in the area. So if I want to do the Bible right, iron sharpens iron, I'm going to get the biggest dogs in the yard to do it. Well, lucky for you, they were willing to pour into you. Yeah. Which is true, I think, of a lot of men in this church, or say any church. You just have to surround yourself with those people. So the second part of your question, someone I don't know,
I mean, Phil Robertson, he's a big one. I don't know. Duck Dynasty took the world by storm when that was at its peak. We were into that.
Well, you followed. You followed his ministry though as well,
Yeah.
and their podcast and the things.
Yeah. John MacArthur, he just died. I liked Vodi Bakum, he just died. They're all dying. Someone who's alive that I don't know, like we like Joby Martin. He's pretty good. He's my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
He's aggressive and very blunt about the things he says.
So, something I wanted to draw out is that if you want to grow in your faith, it's up to you.
Yeah, it is. So, a real recent thing that's happened, I guess going back a couple months now, probably over the last winter, whenever I did Gavin's foundations class, that was a really good thing. And just listening to everything that he talked about, it all kind of hit home. And then one of the lessons was like, if you're brand new and you've never read this, where do you start? And it gave you like a whole list of like start with James, and then from there I can't remember. It could be maybe it was John.
It was John.
It was James, John, maybe Matthew, and then there's a list. And I read that whole list and
Probably had questions though, right? I mean,
yeah, and I would ask Gavin.
Mm-hmm.
But Gavin's one of those guys who's forgotten more than I'll ever learn, and he's a great resource.
I'm a huge fan of a Bible study. I've never been able just to read the Bible straight through. I like to pick it apart with something that challenges me, something that is like guiding me, or commentary, things like that.
Yeah, the commentary, that's one of the things you got growing up was commentary. Like you were around all these people who just like, oh, did you know that Luke, da-da-da?
Yeah.
Did you know that
I took
Paul,
my dad's commentary.
da-da-da?
I have stacks of his commentary that
And
I've
just
told him
hearing
he can't
all
have
those
back.
little things in your childhood that were kind of just like music in the background for you and many other people who grew up in church. Like you hear a certain type of lingo, you hear a certain type of just chatter, and it all absorbs, and you get things and you hear things. Like Sadie now, she's going to Cross Point. She's been here her whole life. She hears us talk. She's getting things that some people never get. Same with you. I never did get those things. A lot of people never did get those things. And when you talk about just basic stuff, it's new to a lot of people. Like they genuinely don't know. I genuinely didn't know who Jesus was. Just
You knew
no
his
one
name.
even said, hey, come here real quick. No one. Like if someone would have just said, give me 5 minutes.
I think we take for granted that in America, everybody just knows about Jesus.
Yeah, that's not true.
Maybe people over, say, in India don't know who Jesus is and what he's about.
Mm-hmm.
But you're in a small town in a very conservative area in a conservative state where there's a church on every corner.
Right.
And nobody had told you who Jesus was until you really
the United
came
States,
through these
we're on
doors.
the global stage. We're a first world country. No one ever told me.
So let me ask you about your baptism.
Mm-hmm.
What was the decision with that? It came sudden to me.
So that story, so I had met with Ben again, and I wanted to do it in the river because I'm an outside guy, and I wanted to do it in the river. Well, this was February. And in my mind, I kind of thought, this will be so cool. Like, it's February, there's ice on the river, everyone will remember this. It's just cold water.
So you had already made the decision before our daughter said...
Now, time out.
Okay.
This was what I wanted.
Okay.
I wanted to do it in the river. Everyone would remember it. In my mind, I'm thinking, this is going to impact some people. No one's going to forget it. But that was glorifying me. Mm-hmm. Well, lo and behold, the river flooded big time, out of the banks. Can't do it. So Sadie spoke up. We did it here. And after the fact, I got to thinking that I have been in every type of water you can imagine except water in a
Baptistry.
Ocean, lake, puddles, dirty cow horse ponds, pools, you name it, everything except that. And when I got dunked in that, it was like the water had silk to it or something. It was a different type of water that I knew it instantly. As soon as I went under, I knew instantly I had never touched water like this before.
You know, and this isn't a story I've shared many times, but I knew you were saved, and I had been praying for 7 solid years that you would make a decision to be baptized. And I don't know how far-reaching this interview will go, but if you're a woman that is praying for baptism for your husband or your children, do not stop. I mean, it was 7 full years of the same prayer for you. And then one day you're like, I'm getting baptized. And I was like, praise the Lord. That is an answered prayer. And my son just got baptized a few weeks ago. Again, no less than 10 years did I pray for him to be baptized. And the Lord hears our prayers. He answers our prayers. They were not wasted.
Yeah. And this video might reach more than you think. People listening can't tell it, but we got 500 people in the audience. So they're just being
really quiet.
Did you have another question?
I do. So going back to your 30-year-old self, because now, you pray regularly, you read your Bible, you go to men's Bible study, you've become a leader in our men's ministry. Would your 30-year-old self have ever imagined that you would be that guy today?
No, not even kinda. Just kind of happened. I don't really know another way to put it. Just kind of happened. And here
Over
we
the
are.
course of a decade, the Lord's been working on you. And I think
13 years.
And
going back to the beginning of us coming here, it was not that I wanted to come here. It was like a pull to be here. Like I knew I needed to come, but there was if I could do anything else, I would. Like if I could just watch football Sunday morning, come on. Or if I could, it's the rut, Tara. I mean, all that important stuff, but there was always something pulling me here. And it wasn't you. It was just something pulling me here every Sunday for years.
Yeah, I was coming with or without
years.
you. You didn't have to come.
But for years, that pull of you just gotta go. And there was no answer for years. There was no aha moment. There was no light bulb. There was none of that. It was just a pull to come every Sunday. And I don't want to use the word grueling because that's the wrong word. I don't know the word to use, but there was always just I don't want to. But every time I would leave, I never regretted it. And I've said that a couple times.
Yeah, we've talked about that. It's kind of like when you have a really hard workout, you never say, dang,
you never regret it.
I wish I wouldn't have gone to the gym today. Nobody ever says that.
Whether it's a Sunday morning, a whatever, there's never a regret.
I think for you, and this has even been true for me over the last 15 years, but there wasn't this grandiose change. It was like one thought at a time. One maybe little habit at a time, where maybe I want to sit here and watch TV and check out, but I'm gonna actually spend some time in prayer. I'm gonna not look at my phone. I'm actually gonna read my Bible. Like it was just like one little thing at a time. It wasn't this big moment. I think you've been stressing that.
I might mess his name up, but most people don't get a big assignment. I mean, they just don't. If you think about Phil Robertson, like, do you know the name of the pastor who went into Phil Robertson's bar to tell him the story of Jesus?
No.
No one does. I do, because I Googled it earlier. But nobody knows it. But the point is, he did it. He did that one little thing, and look at the millions of lives Duck Dynasty changed.
Right. So
if you were alive when that show was on, you knew about it.
Right.
Nationwide. There's 300 million people in the United States. Everybody knew about it. But that one guy that nobody knows his name did that.
So your assignment could be some 8-year-old in Awana right now that you have no idea.
Could be. Mine could be, I was wondering, I started a while back taking notes in here when I find a little nugget that I like. I'm going to die one day. Somebody will pick that up, and all the little things that I write in there could be what I was here for.
And I might burn those deer head. You have no idea. They're on the wall. They got to go somewhere. But the Bible,
you're going to burn them, or you're going to sell them, or
this will
something.
last. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say if there's someone like you who's maybe maybe they grew up in church, maybe they didn't, but they're struggling in their faith walk, and they're looking at people around them, and they're like, that one has it together, that one's killing it for their faith, and I'm not. What would you say to that person?
I would say give yourself a little more credit than you think. Because, well, take us. We're sitting up here right now. Everything seems great. Nobody knows about the big fight we got into earlier this week.
Yeah.
I mean, it went on for 2 days.
It was 2 days.
And it was a fight.
I'm over it now.
You hung up on me.
I did. That happened. That did happen.
Don't sit there and think, oh, look at these two on their high horses.
They're nailing it.
Yeah, no, not even close. So don't, that's a misconception. That's a misconception that I had. Mm-hmm. Like, church, they're different.
Church people are perfect.
They're perfect. They don't have the same struggles they didn't walk what I've walked. Like, I've been to parties where, drugs and alcohol you were just numb to seeing it. Like, there could be bowls of Coke on the table and it's no big deal. You just walk past it to get to wherever you want to get at the party. And I don't know. I wouldn't say I hung out with the worst of the worst. Like, we weren't mean to anybody. We didn't steal people's stuff. We didn't murder anybody. Like, we didn't do anything super bad in my mind. But I looked at people who went to churches, they never did any of that. Like, there's my people and then there's church people. And mm-hmm. Church people aren't my people. And I kind of viewed church people as weak because that's what the world tells you.
Yeah.
As a boy growing up, men we work outside, we cuss, we drink, we do all the stuff, you womanize, all the stuff. So those were my people. Like, I thought that's what it was. And if you were good, you believe in God, you go to heaven. And that's not the case. And the whole thing of this whole story is, I'm not advocating for any of this stuff that I've done in the past.
Yeah, Jesus had to die for that sin.
Jesus died for all that. And when that comes into your perspective, like, truly, that does change you. Because if you think about, if someone dies for you, like if someone came in here, started shooting the place up, I stepped in front of the bullet for you and you lived, you would just, in your mind, in your soul, forever be indebted to me for that. You would just want to pay me back somehow. Well, that's what Jesus did. And you're supposed to be a living sacrifice, right? Which means while you're alive, you do what you're supposed to do when the Holy Spirit tells you to do it. Like, you're a living sacrifice.
Which means sacrificing, like, I really want to be in the tree stand, but I'm
not even that.
Or I really want
David's
to
going to start shooting arrows up here if we keep on this hunting
Let's
stuff.
Let's get a different one. I really want to watch football this
Sunday. You said that your cardiologist said that comfort is the new smoking, the new cigarette. Comfort is killing more people than anything.
The recliner in the remote is killing more people than cigarettes.
Yeah. That's a scary statistic.
Fair. But so you want to be comfortable, but anything that's the sacrifice would be, I want to be comfortable. I'm going to sacrifice my comfort because I have an assignment from the Lord.
And I've not found in here where it says do whatever you think is comfortable. I don't think those words are in here. If they are,
I haven't
someone
found them.
Can point it out.
Yeah, it's not there.
And I'm not going to sit here and act like I've read this whole book, because I haven't. I've done pretty good with
You're working on it.
I would say New Testament, yeah.
Yeah.
New Testament, yes. Old Testament, no. So I would say give yourself a little more credit than you think, and don't be so hard on yourself. And I've heard people say, well, I've tried reading the Bible. I don't know what it says. Well, yes, you do. As a matter of fact, we got time. So, and we're just we'll freestyle this whole thing on some things that I've got underlined that are, pretty darn easy to understand. Do not be slothful. There's something highlighted. And again, I'm just freestyling here, flipping through. Watch out for those who cause division and create obstacles contrary to the doctrine that you might have been taught. That's in Romans. You understand that. Mm-hmm. That's pretty freaking clear. There's a lot in here about, let's see here. No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. You understand that. Here's a good one. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up. You understand that. There's a lot of things in here that you do understand.
It's the application that gets a little...
Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh.
Where was that on Monday?
Anyways, we're all not perfect, Tara. Okay?
So I think it's...
Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. I mean, I could go on...
Right.
I could go on all day. I mean, just keep flipping.
Maybe it's not the understanding, it's the application.
Abstain from every form of evil. I mean, there's things you do understand. And I would say the things you do understand, harp on them. Now, why do you keep looking over there? So, like when you get into, I think what people mean is when they say they don't understand is when you get into like the lineage and the family trees and the tribes. Like there's words in here I can't even pronounce. Right. Most people cannot pronounce. So when you get to that kind of stuff, you need to find an advanced person if you really want to dig into it and learn it.
Well, and that kind of happens. I've noticed the more you read the Bible, the more you want to read the Bible. And the more you read it, you understand more and more. It's like layers keep getting added to it. Mm-hmm. But you don't get there until you start. So perhaps, if you're digging through the depths of, say, Romans, and you're getting hung up on some parts of it, you're still gleaning things even though you don't realize it. Well, you might read Romans again in another year or two and you understand things that you didn't, but you have to stick with it.
Yeah. But the point is, if you think you're not doing good and you're not getting it, there's a lot in here that you do get, and highlight it and just harp on it. Like there's a lot in here about love, joy, peace, kindness.
Be a doer of the word and not a hearer only.
All kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff you get, and Ben says it all the time, have childlike faith. Like a lot of things in this book were written that these little kids understand. So if a little 4-year-old can understand it, you understand it. It's just maybe your mind is clouded with something it shouldn't be. And the girl at your thing said, purge your life of...
Utterly purge your life of all sin.
Of all sin. And that could be anything. Like if you were to... Everybody's made a budget. If you were to make a budget with not money but your time, write down everything that you do. Like I was on Facebook for this long. I was on social whatever for this long. I worked out for this long. I worked for this long. How long did you touch your Bible? Did you open it this week? Did you open it this month?
Right.
That'll change some stuff and you really start holding yourself accountable.
So last question here. Your faith journey obviously has changed a lot from your early 30s and now you're on to the Middle Ages. What's next?
I don't know. I can tell you what I think would be cool, but I don't know. I mean, if King David were asked that question, do you think he would have known? But I don't know. I think that I really like talking to men about just stuff. I mean, how to do better.
Yeah.
The men's ministry is a great group to be a part of.
You said you called yourself the call people out guy or something along those lines.
Me and another guy were assigned to that, which that's not a bad thing because I wish I would have been. Mm-hmm. Like I wish someone would have just said, "What's your plan?" Like at 20, like what is your plan?
What are you doing?
What are you doing? Like what do you even want to do for work? What are you doing? Just tell me what you're doing. And if you don't have a plan, let's make a plan. Like someone, anybody could have just said that to me. That would have probably changed a lot of things earlier. So I don't know. I like talking to men. I could do like men's.
So being in the men's ministry is pretty well spot on.
I think so. Yeah. I don't know. Getting asked to do these speaking engagements a lot for some reason.
Do you have any closing thoughts? Something that you would say to someone maybe struggling in their faith, specifically men, since that seems to be...
Just give yourself more credit. Give yourself more credit than you are, because you're probably being too hard on yourself. Mm-hmm. That'd be it.
All right. Thanks for your interview.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, guys.